Welcome back. You're watching NewsX and I'm Vaishali Kohli. Now, soldiers from France, Germany and other European countries have begun arriving in Greenland to bolster security on the Arctic island. Amid growing tensions between the United States and its European allies over President Donald Trump's stated ambitions to acquire the territory from Denmark. France has already deployed 15 soldiers, Germany has sent a 13-member reconnaissance team, and Norway and Sweden are also participating. The two-day mission has been described as a symbolic exercise, including the planting of the European Union flag to demonstrate that European troops can be rapidly deployed if required. The deployment follows talks between Denmark, Greenland and the US in Washington, where officials acknowledged fundamental disagreements over Greenland's future. Danish Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen said the meeting failed to change the US position, while Greenland's foreign minister said cooperation with Washington does not mean the territory wants to be owned by the US. The White House said the European troop presence would not affect President Trump's plans, reiterating that it does not alter his goal of acquiring Greenland. Trump has said the US needs Greenland for strategic reasons, citing concerns over Russian and Chinese interest in the Arctic. Russia has criticized the move, accusing Western countries of escalating tensions and warning against the militarization of the Arctic. So this, viewers, is of course a big shocker, really. A lot of developments there, and soldiers from France, Germany and other European countries have begun arriving in Greenland to bolster security on the Arctic island. But the question really is that will that deter President Donald Trump, who seems to have made up his mind really? Now, amid growing tensions between the US and the European allies over President Donald Trump's stated ambitions to acquire the territory from Denmark, France, in the meantime, has already deployed 15 soldiers. Germany has sent a 13-member reconnaissance team, and Norway and Sweden are also participating. So, viewers, this of course is the big breaking news that we're sharing with you at this point. President Trump, of course, is making some moves, and which is really not being appreciated by the European Union. Now, the two-day mission has been described as a symbolic exercise, including the planting of the European Union flag. Now, this, of course, is to demonstrate that EU troops can be rapidly deployed if required. I have Rumi Mishra joining me. Rumi, what more can you tell us?
Vaishali, the White House has reiterated that President Donald Trump wants to acquire Greenland and that the deployment of the European troops will not affect his plans to take control in the Arctic island from Denmark. US Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has now said that the president has made his priority quite clear here, and that he wants the United States to acquire Greenland. He thinks that it is best for the USA's national security to, in fact, take a hold of Greenland. Also, talking about Europe deploying troops to Greenland, Leavitt said, and I'm quoting here, she said that, "I don't think troops in Europe impact the president's decision-making process, nor does it impact his goal of the acquisition of Greenland at all." Her comments came as European NATO countries began deploying military personnel to the strategic Arctic territory, prompting a sharp response from Russia. The move follows a high-level meeting in Washington between US, Danish and Greenlandic officials that failed to bridge what Denmark described as a fundamental disagreement over Greenland, an autonomous Danish territory. Trump has repeatedly said the US needs to cease for security reasons. Remember, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen earlier said that a working group would be established to discuss strengthening Arctic security, but stressed that the initiative would not resolve the underlying dispute. Over to you, Vaishali.
Right, I have Ambassador Yogesh Gupta, former diplomat, joining me. Now, Ambassador Gupta, a lot of tensions, of course, escalating in Greenland now because soldiers from France, Germany, and other European countries have begun arriving in Greenland. But the question really is that will it deter President Donald Trump?
It's unlikely to deter President Donald Trump because he is someone, who is kind of very obstinate and arrogant and determined and also an imperialist and whatever, comes to his mind, right or wrong, good or bad, he just wants to implement it. He doesn't listen to anyone. And he thinks that this will help the U.S. in its strategic interest. Whereas Denmark and other European Union countries have said that, look, they are willing to cooperate with the U.S. in any way to help or to use Denmark for any strategic provisions or for any strategic considerations for the United States. But Trump is someone who doesn't listen to anyone. Even the U.S. armed forces are against this involvement, but Trump doesn't listen to anyone.
Right. Ambassador Gupta, the mission has included planting the EU flag. Now, how important are such symbolic gestures in diplomacy and deterrence?
It is basically the EU countries are trying to show to the US or show to the Denmark that the European Union is supporting Denmark and European Union is with Denmark and also that in case the US sort of takes this over through military means. Then it will be a violation of the treaties, among them. But as I said, these are all symbolic gestures, and Trump is not someone, who is deterred by these symbolism. He is someone who can only be deterred by hard power. And European countries have they have no hard power to deter the United States. So Trump will have his way.
Ambassador Gupta, Russia has of course condemned this, but the question is that how might Russia and China interpret or perhaps exploit these visible divisions between the US and Europe?
Well, they will try to deepen the divide between the United States and Europe. They will try to encourage the European countries to move away from the US. Now, to what extent these countries would move away from the U.S. and towards them is difficult to say because European countries also have their own issues with both Russia and China because they don't like the Russian intervention in Ukraine. They are scared that after Ukraine, Russia may invade some of those countries in Europe. Similarly, in regard to China, they are not happy how China has economically dominated Europe and displaced most of the European companies, whether in rail technology or in electric vehicles or in solar equipment and so on. So they have their own issues and difficult to say how much Europe would move away from the U.S. But yes, this will certainly have an impact. The Europe will certainly be unhappy, and it might spur Europe to move to building up its own defense capabilities more quickly, and it will deepen the divide between Europe and the United States. That's all.
Ambassador Gupta, please stay on with me. I also have Ambassador Gauri Shankar Gupta, former diplomat, joining me. Now, Ambassador Gupta, how significant, according to you, is the arrival of European troops in Greenland, and is this merely symbolic or a strategic signal?
Ali, good morning. You see, it's basically symbolic. I'm telling very clearly that Greenland will be part of USA in the coming months. It's a matter of time. the Europeans have no power to, go against Trump's wishes, and if they go, then they will have problem with Russia. So NATO will not collapse, though they are threatening that NATO will collapse. NATO will not collapse. NATO will stay. US will remain the senior-most partner and most effective partner. At the same time, Greenland will be sovereign part of US in the coming months. I'm absolutely sure. And Trump will be able to either, make them understand, or through pressure, he will be able to make his way. So it is absolutely clear Trump has made up his mind. He's pushing it every single day. He's making a statement that, Greenland is very necessary for their national security and also for the security of NATO. And he's actually fearing that maybe Russians or Chinese one day may control it. So because of this reason, he will not give it up. And you will see in the coming few months, it will be part of US.
Ambassador Gupta, you've made a prediction, and very rightly so, but it's very unfortunate the kind of stuff that Trump's really doing. From a diplomatic standpoint, just to ask you, is there any legal basis for the US to pursue acquisition of Greenland?
You see, he has abandoned all the legal instruments. He doesn't care for the UN, he doesn't care for the international law, he doesn't care for WTO. He has abandoned all the instruments of international conduct and behavior. And he's not going to follow it up. And there's no authority in the in the international system which can actually prevent it to happen. Because even if the court in Hague decides against it, he will not give it up. What can you do? Like China, there was a case of an island between Philippines and China. The China did not give it up despite the order of the court in the Hague, and it remains under the control of China. So these big powers which have military superiority, basically it's like in Hindi we say jiski lathi uski bhains. This is what a power politics is. It's back to the might is right concept with Trump.
I'd request both my guests to stay on with me. Now, Denmark's Prime Minister met Frederiksen